Welcome back to Build a Web App in 2 hours. In this session, we're going to import entities and bootstrap them with data. So what this means is that inside of OutSystems, we may wish to be able to get data into our system a little bit faster. And we have something called database entities where we can persist that information in the database. So we're going to use one of the wizards that's going to let us import entities from an Excel spreadsheet. And the Excel spreadsheet is going to have a list of launch sites and a list of planets inside of it. So the launch site tab will have information like the city, country, latitude, longitude, its address, and then the planet tab will have information about the planets. So we're going to go ahead and import that Excel spreadsheet. And what will happen inside of OutSystems is a bunch of stars will come up. And these stars are part of the accelerator that will show us different areas where things are getting created. Inside of OutSystems, even when we're bootstrapping data, there's no magic that's going on. Under the covers, there's real code that's going to help us do that. So the stars are going to show us the timers and the actions that actually get created. So under the process area, we would be able to find some timers that are going to bootstrap our launch sites and bootstrap our planets. And if we look at that timer, it actually is going to have a schedule to happen when it's published, and then it's going to call the bootstrap planet action. And when we go to the logic area, we'll actually find that the bootstrap planet's action looks like this. It's going to go out and look if we have any launch sites in our system. So this is a query of the current database. And if that query comes back empty, it'll read the Excel spreadsheet, loop over all the rows in the spreadsheet, and then place them as new launch sites inside of our database. If it happened to find some launch sites already exist, then it would just skip this and it wouldn't actually try to bootstrap the data. So that's kind of the basics for what's going on under the covers. Now, to do that, we'll actually publish. And when we published our Hello Planets page a little while ago, I mentioned that Service Studio was publishing information to the server. When the server got it, the code generator started creating the HTML for our Hello Planets page. It would also create any server-side logic that we need, and it would update the database to hold whatever else might be important. So in this particular case, when we're doing the bootstrap, it's going to go to the database and create a launch site entity and a planet entity. So that bootstrap will take that Excel spreadsheet and it'll make sure that the launch site data gets into the server. So that's what we're going to try to accomplish in this session. Let's go ahead and get started. Back in Service Studio, here we have our Hello Planets page, and in this case we don't need to adjust anything in the user interfaces, so we're going to switch over to the Data tab, and this changes the elements that we can see. And we can see that we have the entities that we were talking about, and there are database entities. So there are some here for the menus and submenus, and there are some other types of database related information here. But we'd like to get our own information in for the launch sites and for the planets. So we right-click the database, and then we can go ahead and say Import Entities from Excel. And here you can see I'm in the Resources folder, and as part of the start of the class, you were probably able to see a download button where you could download the resources. It's also right underneath the tab for this movie where you can see download different materials. So if you get the resources zip and unzip it, there'll be a few resources inside of it, including this Bootstrap Data Excel spreadsheet. So if we go ahead and ask that to open, what we're going to see over here is a number of stars appear in the process and the logic and inside the user interface. So let's watch that while I click open. And here we can see some of the stars popping up and showing different things that have been created. So when it imported the Excel spreadsheets, for each sheet in the spreadsheet, there was an entity created. So here we can see our launch site entity with the city, the country, and all the info that we had seen. And it also has some of these little actions to go ahead and be able to create a new launch site or get one or update one. And the same thing was true for the planets. So the planets have information about the name, the description, the system, and the coordinates, and the same update capabilities. Now, one thing that wasn't brought in is that we'd like the planet to have a picture, but it can't import the pictures from the Excel spreadsheet. So what we're going to do is right-click on Planet, and if I select it and right-click, one of the things that we have in the advanced area for planets is that we can actually import an image that's related to the planet that we're going to call Planet Picture. And it's going to create an entity for that. So we'll give it the default picture of a planet, and we'll click Open, and this is from the resources again. And when I click Open, now you can see we have another new entity, and this particular new entity is called Planet Picture. It's holding a binary set of data, which is the information for the picture, its name, and its type. And you can see that it has this little ID, and the ID is linked back to the planet identifier. So this entity is directly linked to the planet identifier and the planet entity as well. So let's go ahead and publish this. And while it's publishing, if we look at launch site and we ask it to view data, what it shows us is that right now the one-click publish is working and it doesn't have any data to show that it knows about it. So that's okay, we'll let it finish publishing. And while it's doing that, we mentioned that part of the wizard that was bringing in and importing these created the Bootstrap. And if we look at the Bootstrap for the planets, it called the Bootstrap planets action, and it's going to run these timers whenever we publish to the server. And if we double click on the action, it can show us which actions are available. And if we go back and double click on the planet timer itself, it takes us right to the logic tab and shows us this action. And that's the one we mentioned that was going to import the planet info. So at this point, it shows us that the blue button is active again, which means that the data hopefully has been published to the server, and we've given it a second or two to run that timer. So now, if we ask to see the launch site data and view the data again, here we can see that it's already been able to basically read over that spreadsheet and bring in all of the data. So that's it for bootstrapping the data and importing the entities. Join me in the next section where we'll begin using this data to create the basic screens for the launch sites.